Hello, my name is Frank Christensen and I'm the coordinator of officials for IFAF in Europe. In today's training tape, we're looking at fumbles and backward passes and the difference between the two. When is it one and when is it the other? And what does that mean for our coverage of the play and the rules pertaining to these situations? But before we get to the game film, let's have a look at the rulebook and the MoFo to see what they have to say on this topic.
In the rulebook, we go to definitions in 2.11.1. Article 1, to fumble the ball is to lose player possession by any act other than passing, kicking, or successful handing. The status of the ball is a fumble. 2a, a pass is forward if the ball first strikes the ground, a player, an official, or anything else beyond the spot where the ball is released. All other passes are backward passes. When in question, a pass thrown in or behind the neutral zone is a forward rather than a backward pass. B, when a Team A player is holding the ball to pass it forward towards the neutral zone, any intentional forward movement of his hand with the ball firmly in his control starts the forward pass, unless the player clearly starts to bring the ball back with firm control to his body. If a Team B player contacts the forward passer or ball after the forward movement begins and the ball leaves the forward passer's hand, a forward pass is ruled regardless of where the ball strikes the ground or a player. C, when in question, the ball is passed and not fumbled during an attempted forward pass. D, a snap becomes a backward pass when the snapper releases the ball other than via a hand-to-hand exchange. In the MoFo, we go to 5.11.1. Unless there has obviously been no change of team possession, if you cover a fumble recovery that is not advanced, signal to show which team has recovered the ball. If Team B has recovered the ball, or Team A has recovered after double change of possession, signal a first down in the appropriate direction. If Team A has recovered the ball, signal the number of the next down. 2. If no official has seen player recover a fumble before a scrum forms on top of the ball should be awarded to the player in control of the ball once the scrum is unpiled. If players from both teams have equal control of the ball should be awarded to the team last in possession. Touching the ball does not necessarily mean that a player is in control of the ball. 3. If it is necessary to dig it out and you are the nearest official, dig for the ball. If you are the next official, signal timeout to stop the clock, and this should be echoed by the rest of the crew. As the digging official, when you determine possession, verbally relay that information to the nearest standing officials, normally the referee, who will then signal the proper direction. Only the referee, if he is not the signaling official, may echo the direction signal. 4. A technique to encourage players to get off the pile is to shout out, "He's got it," making it clear to players not in possession that they are too late to make a difference to possession. 5. Ensure that players from neither team contravene Rule 921A1K by pushing or pulling opponents off the pile after the ball is dead. And finally, 6. Don't rush any decision. Before signaling a direction, take a moment to check that you have the direction right. This is why calling out a color is a better practice. And that was the book. Now, let's have a look at some game film. On this first play, we're going to have a look at a play that we see more and more of. And the point here really isn't whether he gets into the end zone or not. I think he probably does, if we can freeze it like there. I think he still has the ball, and it's not until he gets to the end zone that he kind of leaves it or drops the ball. The point here is that we cannot afford to just assume that he's going to run all the way to the end line with the ball, or he's going to run and give the ball to the back judge. whether it's a short wing or deep wing, first of all, we have to be on the goal line. Whenever possible, we have to be on the goal line to be able to rule on these. And once we're there on the goal line, we have to be ready for this to happen. So don't be in a hurry to make a ruling. Make sure that he does get completely across the goal line before he does that, so that we are in fact actually ready to, let's say he drops the ball here, so that we are ready to rule on a loose ball in the field of play, if that is in fact what happens. So here we just have to be ready to rule on these. On this play, we're talking about fumble versus backward pass, and why it's important to know the difference and to distinguish between them, because here we've clearly have a backward pass, which means now the ball is loose, it's still a backwards pass, it's not a fumble on the ground. The referee and the center judge here do a good job of not beanbagging this, because there is no reason to beanbag it. But if we look at the linesman up the top of the screen, he actually throws a beanbag. So he's got either he was just too quick, or he actually saw this as a fumble. But it's important to know the difference. Now this is first down, so we don't have the fourth down fumble rule in effect, but it could be. So it's very important that just because you see a loose ball is not necessarily a fumble. You have to know where the ball came from before you can rule on it. You have to know what the status of this ball is. Now compare this play to the next play. So this play is very similar in many ways to the previous play. Again, we've got a backward pass and a backward pass here, and on this play, the wings do a good job, but the referee is too quick with the beanbag. I think he sees this. It's a little tighter, but it's still a backward pass, and I think he sees this as a handoff, which it wasn't. This is also a backward pass. Now you'll notice that this is in fact fourth down, so a fourth down fumble rule is in effect. So if we rule this as a fumble, which we do, which the referee does, right there comes the beanbag. That means that right now, right there, if this is a fumble, then it's a fumble by number 13. So right now, when it's picked up by somebody other than number 13, the play's over. So really, if we have this as a fumble, we should go ahead and be consistent and kill this play right now. Now he gets tackled right away anyway, but here is a good example of where it's really important to rule correctly backward pass or fumble, because on fourth down it has a huge impact on the play, what we rule. On this play, we're going to have a different kind of backward pass. Right there, if we just follow the center, the snapper, that is in fact a backward pass. It's not a fumble by anybody. So the umpire is actually incorrect by throwing his beanbag, because again, this is a backward pass, and we don't need a beanbag on a backward pass here. And again, just because we see the ball on the ground doesn't mean necessarily that it's a fumble. It doesn't mean necessarily that we need to throw a beanbag. So again, know the rules for when it's a fumble, when it's a beanbag, or when it's a backward pass, so that you know when you need to beanbag this, and this situation is not it. Here's yet another type of backward pass, and I think we can all agree that this is a backward pass. But again, this is not, right now, it's not a fumble, it is a muffed backward pass. For it to be a fumble, we'd have to have the punter actually catch and control this ball and then fumble it. Here, she clearly doesn't. So it's a muffed backward pass. The status of the ball is still a backward pass, and I think actually a little bit off the topic here, but I think it's a good job by the referee center judge to rule here that this is the punter does not have her knee down when she recovers this ball, and it's a good pointer for referees, center judges to, at this point right now, to have your primary focus on the up back and on the line of scrimmage, and then have the punter kind of in your periphery. And then as soon as something happens like this, then you turn your entire focus back on the punter, so that you can rule on this and rule it correctly. Whereas if the punter just catches the ball and kicks it off, or kicks it in a normal motion, you don't really have to spend too much energy or too much focus on her, and you can look at the blocks. But here you need to look at this so that you know that this muffed backward pass is recovered, picked up, and you can go from there. On these last couple of plays, we're now moving on to fumbles instead of backward passes. So here we've got right there as a fumble. Now, first things first, I think it's fairly obvious to see that he controls the ball, he tucks it away, takes a few steps. This is a catch fumble as opposed to an incomplete. Now, something that we can use to tell when the fumble happens is the next point here. We've got this guy, he gets hit right there, and then he gets hit right there. Now, typically, 99% of the time, the runner doesn't just fumble out of thin air. He typically fumbles because he gets hit either by an opponent or by the ground. So if you're looking for something to cause a fumble, it would typically be some kind of an impact. And here you see that the second white guy coming in actually causes this fumble, and there the ball is out before the knee is down. So that's what caused this fumble. Now keep that in mind as we go on to the next play. But before we do, let's have a look at the recovery by white number 7 here. I think it's pretty clear that he's got his legs out of bounds. That certainly is, or appears to be, the correct call here. But if we look at the umpire all the way from the middle of the field, he actually has a beanbag, and now he signals direction, which is a little premature, and he keeps up his signal. And even after the officials come together over there and are clearly talking about something, the umpire is still signaling, which is a little too much. So when you're that far away from the play and the calling officials, you really don't want to be making big signals. And I think these officials do a good job of recognizing that the recovering official actually, or the recovering player actually was out of bounds, which made this quite simply a forward fumble out of bounds that goes back to the spot of the fumble, and A retains this ball. So on the previous play, the runner was hit by 2 different defenders. Here, it's the same principle. He's first hit by one defender, and then he hits the ground there. So again, it's a clue to identify when the ball comes out. Typically, it happens because of an impact, so either here or here. So it's something that you can use to help you find out when the ball came out. Now, keep in mind that if we still don't know using these clues, then our MOFO axiom is still that if we don't know, then it's a fumble. But we shouldn't get surprised, or we should be looking for the ball coming out, when there is an impact, so either here or there, because those are the 99% of the time the times when the ball comes out. But again, if you don't know, the MOFO says we have to go with a fumble. So that was the training tape on fumbles and backward passes. I hope you found something you can use on the field.